Salvete omnes. In this video, we will learn about purpose clauses in English and Latin. A purpose clause is a subordinate clause that in Latin uses a subjunctive verb. In previous videos, we covered the forms of the present and imperfect subjunctives, and purpose clauses use those subjunctive tenses exclusively. If you need to review those forms, you can go back and watch the earlier videos. As previously mentioned, a purpose clause is a subordinate clause. And a subordinate clause is a clause that contains at least a subject and a verb, but which can't stand on its own as a main sentence. You have previously met the relative clause, introduced in English by who or which, and in Latin by qui, quae, quod. And that is another example of a subordinate clause. A purpose clause, as the name suggests, indicates the purpose for performing the main verb of the sentence or the verb directly before the purpose clause. So for instance, I am making this video for the purpose of teaching you about purpose clauses. So the purpose clause explains the reason for the main verb, in this case, making this video. In English, purpose clauses are introduced by one of three subordinating conjunctions or phrases, i.e. the word or phrase that introduces the subordinate clause. So with relative clauses, the subordinating conjunction in English is who or which, and in Latin is qui, quae, quod. In English, purpose clauses can be introduced by the subordinating conjunctions or phrases in order to, so that, or to. So in the example previously used, I could say, I am making this video in order to teach you about purpose clauses, so that I may teach you about purpose clauses, or to teach you about purpose clauses. Before we look at purpose clauses in Latin in more detail, let's take a closer look at that final translation in English of a purpose clause. In the sentence, I attend school every day to learn Latin, surely the reason why everyone attends school, you'll notice that the to learn sounds like a present active infinitive, discere. But let's take a closer look at the meanings of to learn in English. In the sentence, I attend school every day to learn Latin, the to learn suggests why you attend school, and is therefore part of a purpose clause. Compare the phrase, I am able to learn Latin. There, the to learn does not express purpose, but simply fills out the meaning of the main verb, I am able. So in Latin, if you wanted to say, I am able to learn Latin, you would say, linguam Latinam discere possum, where discere is a present active complementary infinitive. While if you wanted to say, I attend school every day to learn Latin, you would say, quotidie scholam frequento, ut linguam Latinam discam. As the previous example indicated, positive purpose clauses in Latin are introduced by the subordinating conjunction ut, which in this clause means in order to or so that. Let's take a look at another couple of examples. In the sentence, felle strepitat ut comedat, the cat makes a noise so that she may eat, felle strepitat is the main clause, ut introduces the purpose clause, and comedat is the present subjunctive as the verb of the purpose clause. In the sentence, canis latrat ut foras se ducam, the dog barks so that I may take her outside for a walk, canis latrat is the main clause, ut introduces the purpose clause, and ducam is in the present subjunctive as the verb of the purpose clause. I previously mentioned that the imperfect subjunctive can also be used in purpose clauses. And to show how, let's compare the previous two sentences with these two examples. Feles strepitabat ut comederet, and canis latravit ut foras se ducere. We'll go over the mechanics of when to use which subjunctive more thoroughly in a future video. But for right now, the basic rule is, if the main verb of a purpose clause is in the present or future tense, you use the present subjunctive in the purpose clause. But if the main clause has a verb in the past tense, you use the imperfect subjunctive in a purpose clause. Negative purpose clauses are introduced by the subordinating conjunction ne, which means so that not, or in order not to, and shows that you're doing something in order that something not take place. Let's take the example, foras canem duco, ne latret. I take the dog outside for a walk so that she doesn't bark. Here, foras canem duco is the main clause. Ne introduces a negative purpose clause, and latret is the present subjunctive as the verb of the purpose clause. And again, if you change the main verb of the sentence into the past tense, foras canem duxi, now the purpose clause has an imperfect subjunctive, ne latraret. As always, with these pop-up grammar extras, you do not need to know this information for class. This is just extra information in case you're curious. In addition to ut and ne, purpose clauses can also be introduced by the relative pronoun qui, quae, quod, in what is known as a relative clause of purpose. This is usually the case when the relative pronoun does not refer to the subject of the main clause, and when the verb of the main clause is a verb of motion. So, for instance, magister discipulos ad bibliothecam mittit, qui probationem obeant. The teacher sends the students to the library who may take a test, or in order that they may take a test. In this sentence, the subject of the main clause is the teacher, magister, but the relative pronoun qui refers back to the students, discipulos. The verb obeant after the relative pronoun is in the present subjunctive as the verb of the relative clause of purpose. This also works with certain adverbs, quo, to where, ubi, where, and unde, from where. So, for example, feles sub lectum cucurit, ubi canem vitaret. The cat ran under the bed where she might avoid the dog, in order that she might avoid the dog in that place. So, in this video, we learned that purpose clauses explain the reason for or purpose for performing the action of the introductory verb. We learned that purpose clauses in Latin are introduced by ut for a positive purpose clause and ne for a negative purpose clause. We learned that the verb goes into the subjunctive, the present subjunctive if the introductory verb is present or future, and the imperfect subjunctive if the introductory verb is in one of the past tenses. You should now complete the exercise entitled Purpose Clauses, which can be found in our learning management system. As always, if you have any questions, re-watch the video or reach out to me via email. Valete omnes.